Hello. I'm doing this again. So, like a week or so ago, I was looking through different stuff. Happened on Mikimoto's YouTube channel. If you don't know Mikimoto, she's a New Japan commentator who does a lot of their Lucha Libre CML coverage, but she does other shows too, and she has other jobs. But I know her mostly from her because she's the person they go to every Fantastic Mania to like explain what exactly is going on in CML to New Japan fans, and she goes like above and beyond in doing this stuff. The still here is from a 2 hour video she did a live stream on her YouTube channel. We're just going to every wrestler coming in individually and telling them what they've done, when they were born, what they look like, drawing these illustrations herself, putting it all together. It was like I understood none of it because I don't understand Japanese, but then I understood all of it because it was Lucha Libre, and it was very well done. I thought, wouldn't it be cool if someone did that for English-speaking people too? And it would be very cool if someone did that. And then I kept on thinking about it, and then I realized that unfortunately we're all stuck with the only person who does this stuff is me. So I guess I have to do it if I want it to exist. I'd rather watch it myself, to be honest, but like it's better that I do a half effort job. So at least something's out there. The problem is I don't have the artistic ability or the speaking ability that professional wrestling announcer Mikimoto has. I just have access to free Google Sheets and some time to put together like a very basic PowerPoint presentation. But we're here. You've run out of things to watch if you're on this YouTube channel already. So I can just like put some stuff up and talk about the luchadors you're going to see and just other stuff in CML for the Fantastic Mania Tour, which is starting. By the time you listen to this, it probably has already started, but it's this week. It'll be fun. It's in New Japan. It's on New Japan World. They're doing all the shows live, so if you're an insomniac who likes to watch wrestling shows, an insomniac who lives in North America who likes watching wrestling shows between the hours of 1 a.m. and 4 a.m., they've got you covered this week, as they often do. Their shows Wednesday morning, Thursday morning, Friday morning, Saturday, Monday morning, Tuesday morning. Sunday morning would have been so good because I could just, like, for me personally, I have no problem. Well, I will have problems as a result, but sitting up Saturday night to watch a show to an early Sunday morning show sounds good. What's going to actually happen is I'm going to say a Friday night, and it's going to mess up my whole weekend. All these shows are on demand, which, like, if you were a normal person coming to this video, you're like, oh, of course, it's a show that's airing. It's going to be airing on demand. And if you're a CML person, you're like, yeah, stop bringing it up. We all know how much we hate CML about that. The Monday show, which is the first day from Tokyo proper, I guess I don't know geography, from Korakuen Hall, the first day from Korakuen Hall, is also streaming free on New Japan World. So if you're not even interested in paying for all this, that's still a good show to go watch. You can pretend to be interested in the rest of us now that you're going to watch that show. CML never streams these shows, never does anything with the shows. So if you want to see the shows, you can't like wait for them to show up on CML's YouTube. You probably just have to go watch New Japan World. Pay $7.50. They're worth $7.50. There's good stuff in there. If you have not paid attention to CML lately, especially if you haven't paid attention since the last time I came to New Japan, the big news in the last 3 years is that Mystico is Mystico again. I'm not going to do the Spider-Man meme flowchart to explain it all, but the guy that you think of when you think of Mystico is actually Mystico now. We've clarified the situation. It's easy to follow. Other people have gone other places, and that's good for them. But Mystico is the Mystico again, and everyone loves him. Also, CML is all into having different teams now. They just kind of, during the pandemic, everyone got into weird things, and they got into, let's have a whole bunch of factions. So you got some of them on the show, some of them who are hanging back in Mexico for this week. Just a lot of different groups for various reasons. CML is like turning 90 years this year. It's hitting its 90th anniversary this September. It's a big milestone for them. It's something that every single promo, it seems like for the last 3 months already, has been talking about, I want to be in the main event of the 90th anniversary. Everyone's kind of obsessed with that. It'll probably come up sometime during the tour where Mystico challenges 3 different people to have that main event at the 90th anniversary. So just be aware of that. The actual next big show, though, is March 17th, Friday, March 17th. It's the Home a Dos Leyendas show. It's their second biggest show of the year. They have a 4-way hair match, but only one of those guys is actually on the show, so you don't really need to care. But if you're like, I watched these New Japan shows and now I'm watching the preview afterwards for no good reason, when's the next CML show that I should really turn into? That would be the show on the 17th. If you are like a lapsed CML fan or just haven't really checked in since the anniversary, you're probably in the best shape because whoever made these cards also had not checked in with CML since the anniversary, or they just put them together in early October, and things have happened because when things actually happen in CML nowadays. So the last 3 months have seen people change sides, units shuffle a bit, different champions, but none of that's reflected in the cards. It's all kind of, there's one big problem with all the lineups, but we're just gonna like pretend that everyone's just getting along with who they need to get along for the weekend because it's Japan, and we're just all trying to make the best show possible. There are 3 newbies on the show, people that you have never seen in New Japan before, although you may have seen people look a little like them. The first new guy is Captain Suicida, who is still listed as Suicida on the posters. This is one of the changes we talk about. Wow, the emoji did not come through. Google Sheets laying me down. It's not Google Sheets, it's Google Slides, whatever it's called. Suicida... Captain Suicida started his wrestling career as Sonic, like as the Speed, like Sonic, Super Sonic kind of thing. Unfortunately, not the Hedgehog, because then we'd have a whole bunch of cool pictures to throw at him. And then he was kind of hanging around in the opening cards of CML shows for a while. He'd get hurt a bunch and disappear and then come back, and it was like, is this ever going to work out for this dude? But eventually, he figured some stuff out. He strung it together long enough that they said, let's go with him, let's give him a chance, we'll give him our own gimmick, and we'll call him Suicida, with this yellow and purple gear that has been used by a few different luchadors in time. Not the name, but the color scheme is one that goes back to previous wrestlers. But we all figured out, or he figured out at least, that naming yourself Suicide in Spanish means that it's very hard to look up for you on social media, because when people try to look for your name, they get warnings and like suicide prevention numbers and stuff like that. So it's not the greatest name. So he thought, what if I call myself Captain Suicida? I'm not really sure that's any better to me, but we're trying it. We're just going to see. It's new. It's only like 2 months old. We'll see if it works. He's actually a guy who came up in Mystico's gym, which is called the Sin Cara gym at that point. We're not getting into their names again. It's the Mystico you hear about. But Mystico is slightly somewhat of a mentor towards him, and it's like, I don't know if that goes further than they take a lot of photos together, but it is kind of interesting to have a Mystico guy when Mystico really hasn't been known for bringing guys into Lucha Libre. He's as the Suicida name implies, he's the guy who flies around the ring, does a whole bunch of quick moves, wins matches a lot with nifty cradles. He's got a fun personality. He's not as outgoing as like a Furigo or a Stucca, but I feel like there's a chance that he might catch on with that kind of like entertaining personality. Hijo del Villano 3 is, shockingly, the son of Villano 3. He is the younger of the 2 Villano 3 brothers. His older brother is the Villano 3 Jr., who's in AAA. This is they've both been wrestling since they were teenagers. Like, they showed up on the indie show that had TV for a while when they were 14 or 15. It was just ridiculous. I'm not really sure what happened where one ended up in one promotion and the other ended up in the other promotion. That's one of the great mysteries of our time. But this one debuted back in 2018, and around the same time as Atlantis Jr., and that was both a blessing and a curse for him. Blessing because, like, Villanos versus Atlantis is one of the big feuds, more historic feuds in the 2000s for CML, so everyone wanted to see their sons fight. But while Atlantis Jr. really was okay at first and then got much better quickly. Volano 3 was not really even okay when he first came into CML, and it's taken a lot more time for him to get ready. So he's been in like situations where he was not ready for, and it's probably made him look worse than what he is. But he's still like a guy in his 20s, still figuring out. He's been better of late. I would recommend. He had a great match with Ano de Oro late last year, where it's like maybe he's figuring some stuff out. I think this tour's probably like a few years too early for him, but like if you get to go to Japan, you get to go to Japan. I think he's probably going to have to develop more if he's going to come back to Japan. And here we go. We lost a slide here. Well, the third guy, who's not showing up in my slides, but definitely I talked about, was Mahia Blanca. Can we create slides on the fly here? This is really annoying. I looked through this before and I didn't even notice that. Well, Mahia Blanca is the third new guy coming in. Can I just flip to a picture? I could edit this. That's an option I have, but it's an option I'm choosing not to pursue at this time. So I'm just going to stall here while I can grab a picture of Mahia Blanca for you all to look at. So this is a visual thing instead of an audio thing, because that's what we're kind of doing here. Mahia Blanca is one of Volador's students as Los Depredadores. And let's see if we can copy this. Can we just put it right into the image? Probably shouldn't be doing this, narrating this on as I talk. If I put that there, this is so bad. Okay. I guess it doesn't let me do that. Here we go. That's kind of embarrassing how bad that worked out. Mahia Blanca is our man in the middle here. Mahia Blanca is one of Los Depredadores, which is Volador's new group of mid-card wrestlers who weren't really doing much, but he saw that they had the work ethic, that they wanted to be good wrestlers as much as he did. So he's taking them under their wing. The idea is that they're united. They're not technicos or rudos. They're against everyone. In reality, they're kind of just rudos, and Volador's a technico, and they just kind of make it doesn't really totally always make sense, but they work it out together. Mahia Blanca is the current Mexican national welterweight champion, which is like the third most important welterweight title in CML. He's a guy who is solid in the ring and shows, but like that's what he is. He's solid in the ring, but he's a guy who's on a 1 to 10 scale. He seems like he's a 5 in everything. He does not. He's not spectacular in some way. He doesn't have like some great brawling skill or some great flying skill, even though he uses a tornillo for a finish. He's not bad at anything either. He's probably like maybe a little bit higher as a technical wrestler, but he just does not stand out in any way. But he does not let you down either. He's kind of that guy. It's like if he's going to ever, he could be a guy who could be in CML for like 20 years in the same matches and just be remarkably okay the whole time, or he could have another evolution where he gets much better or finds something at it. His partners here are Magnus, who is a CML lifer who is better in this role than he's been in some others, and Ruggiero, who's shown more promise, the guy on the far left here, who's shown more promise as more upside than his partners. But it's like, I think the group itself has been a little bit disappointing from when they were presented to what they thought they were going to be. They're kind of on the lower end of the CML running teams at a lot of times, but Mahia Blanca getting this New Japan opportunity is a big endorsement for him. It's just like he's a guy who just like needs something more than we've seen from him so far. So maybe we'll see on this tour, but maybe he also feels like a guy who, like, as there are on every version of these tours, Mahia Blanca here in the center is going to be the guy who shows up 1 year and then you don't see him again for 10 years until they run out of names or something. The guys that you do see often include Mystico, who's back to being Mystico. He's back to being everyone's hero. It's like we had this thing where the American boy bands all came back who were like hot in the 90s and O's, and it came back for all the adults who wanted to go to their concerts when they were 10 and now had a whole bunch of money to spend when they were adult to go to these concerts. And Mystico coming back as Mystico is a somewhat of the same thing, where all the kids who were big fans of him from 2006 to 2010 are now coming back as adults because they have the money and they have kids who they want to see Mystico be Mystico. It's completely playing the old hits, but he's very much revved up by getting the gimmick back, and everyone's wanting him to be the Mystico since he's come back, so they're into it too. It's not like he's reinventing the wheel, really adding too much. Like physically, athletically, you can see that many of the people he's teaming with outdo him, but he's got that charisma, and he's got the fans believing in him in it, and that works out for him. The one thing he does not have and has not had since coming back to CML a few years ago is like the one big mass versus mass or mass versus hair match. No one's made more challenges for the mass versus mass match, but he has not gotten anyone to. He hasn't got anyone to bite to agree to it, and he hasn't got CML to book that match. He's got plenty of people who he's like sort of feuding with, or like it would take 2 weeks for them to heat it up to where it might be a mass match. But it seems like even though he's the most popular wrestler in the promotion, CML has not really taken advantage of it and gone all the way with the biggest possible match they do with him. So he's going to be, again, like the biggest star on the New Japan Fantastica Mania tour and get the big match at the end of the tour, but there's still like one big goal that he has not yet been able to reach again. Voller Jr. is reaching that goal because he's main eventing the Hombre dos Leyendas in a few weeks with a four-way hair match where he is clearly the biggest star. He's the guy the match is built around. In the last 3 years, he's been kind of busy. He started the gang of the Depredadores. He accrued 3 normal male wrestlers, Regito, Maya Blanca, Magnus, and Diamond. He recruited the Mexican National Women's Champion, Dark Soleta, and the CML Super Pequeño, CML Pequeño Estrellas champion Mercurio as his wrestlers. Like, it's always a good idea if you want to boost your group is to recruit people who are already champions to your group, and he figured that out. But even though they're mostly Rudos, he's especially in this Rocky Romero feud, he's as most technical as he's ever been. Because he's the upstanding babyface with this wacky Cuban guy who is shoving cakes in his face and presenting with his action figures and putting T-shirts on him and calling him his son. So Voller is the straight man to Rocky Romero being out of his mind, and it's worked good so far. It's rare for him not to have a title belt, but Rocky Romero took care of that. And for people following CML, it's very strange for this Rocky Voller feud to be like the focus of Arena Mexico for the last 2 months, and it just does not exist for this week. That's one place where it feels like New Japan kind of missed out on what was going on in CML. And it's not like it's with their own guy, too, which makes it all the stranger. Titan, New Japan is very aware of what's going on with. Titan has not had much to do in CML since joining Los Ingobernables de Japón, but his role for a long time, even before that, just like hang out in trios matches, be a tag team partner for someone who needs it, do a lot of the same things over and over again, and do them well, and then he does them well. He's very proud of the LIJ membership. He brings the banner with all the other members to the ring in most of his matches. He's had some welterweight defenses this year, in the last year, including a great one with Suicida, and he's really focused on the double stomp, springboard double stomp finisher when he's played around with other moves in the past. So, even though he's in LIJ, he's not in the CML version of Ingobernables. It's kind of like somehow they both have the same names, but they've drifted so far apart that they share nothing in common but the names. So they have fought a few times, but even when they fought, it's not even like a big deal. It's something CML plays up. They just happen to have the same name, but it's not like they're doing a feud over the name or anything. It's like CML wants to address it, but they don't feel comfortable addressing it, so they just kind of ignore it. That's the Mexican Lucha Libre way of doing things. Soberano Jr. is not being ignored. He's the most popular wrestler among female fans as far as I can hear, because every time he walks out the ring, it's like female screams the whole time. It's he has his own, instead of like a food truck, he has like an autograph merchandise truck that he brings to in front of Arena Mexico some nights, and that's always swarmed whenever I see pictures of it. He's got plenty of fans who want his mask, and he also has a few different luchadors who want his mask. He was supposed to be in part of this tournament last year for the anniversary show, where Templario, his rival, and Soberano were going to have a chance to do a main event mask match. Templario got hurt. Dragon Rojo got put in as Soberano's opponent. They still didn't make the final. They didn't have their mask match. So now, but they still want the mask. So now Soberano, Dragon Rojo, and Templario are in this strange three-way feud where everyone wants Soberano's mask except Soberano wants to just beat these other two guys and get rid of them. And so that's another weird oddity where like the CML focus is Soberano versus Templario among the guys who are on this tour, and they only match up one time in trios matches all the way. Soberano is like a rising star. He's been like near the top mix, but like if they actually did that mass match and he came up on top, I think that would be a big, huge moment in his career. And it feels like the way CML is setting it up is as if they expect to do it sometime this year. That some sort of version of Soberano, Templario, and Dragon Rojo in a mass match seems like it's going to happen sometime in the next 6 months. Maybe the anniversary main event. It may happen sooner, but it feels like that's the direction they're heading. Dulce Godina and Rey Cometa are 2/3 of Dulce Atrapa Sueños, the Mexican National Trios champions. That's the secondary trios champions in CMLL. What happened since you last saw Fantastica Mania is that Espiritu Negro, the guy on the far right here, lost his mask just a few weeks before Fantastica Mania, and then the world shut down, and Rey Cometa had already tried, on the far left, this idea of being a native gimmick with his face painted, so he's like a ghost warrior kind of thing. And his brother, with nothing better to do, now that he's unmasked, decided that he would also do something kind of similar. And the fans really liked the idea, and the fans have always really liked Rey Cometa because how hard he fights and how spectacular it can be. So they were voted into getting a tag team title shot at the 88th anniversary show. And they did not win, but they moved up the cards from there. Later, Dulce Gardenia, who was in and out during the pandemic but had come back at the point but really didn't have any direction, joined up with the other two to form a trio, and they with the same sort of gimmick, and they and they've been pretty successful as champions. They got these titles as like complete underdogs where they were not really pushed too strongly, and now they're just like mid-card team that has fun and wins all the time, which is like a great evolution of a team. They probably will not be as successful on this tour because everyone else has much bigger names, but they will be completely entertaining when they have those matches. Dulce Gardenia is exotico, so you always expect him to do like goofy behavior in the ring. That's kind of part of the deal. But Rey Cometa is actually kind of goofy too. I don't know if Dulce has just rubbed off on him, but if you pay attention to him closely, he does some weird stuff at times. He reacts well to his partner, and they're a better team than they would have seen. Cometa is really a guy that happens a lot in Lucha Libre and I think in wrestling in general, where early on he's always just like a moves guy and you don't see much of a personality, and as he gets older, suddenly and as the moves go down a little bit, the personality finds its way to come through. Ultimo Guerrero also had personality that came through when he unmasked, but he always had personality. Ultimo Guerrero has been busy shifting his team around. He's the captain of the Los Guerreros Laguneros, and his brother Gran Guerreros has been in it, and then who else has been in it has been a revolving door. Euphoria broke up with the team over COVID, like not during COVID, but over Ultimo Guerrero getting COVID at a very bad time to get COVID. Templario got quietly kicked out of the group because Ultimo Guerrero treated him in a match in the fifth most important show of the week for CML, and then they broke up, and no one really. They did it so quietly that like a year later, I don't think like half the people know that Templario is not supposed to be in the group. It took me a while to figure out, so it just was not explained well. They add Atlantis Jr. as a replacement partner in the trio, and they were successful for most of late 2021, early 2022, and then Ultimo Guerrero and Gran Guerrero cheated Atlantis Jr. in the match too. And it's like, if you guys are cheating me, then I want out. It was a very minor thing, but I guess, doesn't like to be cheated. So he's out of the group now, and the man who Atlantis Jr. unmasked, Stuka Jr., has taken his place in the trio. But we're back to Fantastica Mania, and we're back to like September, October 2022, so Atlantis Jr. is back in the group, and we just kind of say they're being professionals for the week. Ultimo Guerrero, despite all that drama, a lot of that's like Gran Guerrero, his brother, having issues with different partners as of late. So Ultimo Guerrero has no title and has no great feud at the moment. You can see there's Macias down there in the corner is the guy who's jumping on. And at one point they were doing that feud, but Macias has disappeared from CML over the last 3-4 months. So, Ultimo Guerrero is a guy who's usually in the center of everything, and now he's just a guy who's around, but not doing as much, which is a very unusual position for him. Hechicero, though, it's going a lot better for him. Hechicero was a person a year and a half ago defeated Ultimo Guerrero to become CML World Heavyweight Champion for the first time. And not only did he become champion, it fulfilled his many years long quest. He had been trying to convince Tanico to bring back the Los Infernales group, a very popular, well-remembered Rudo group from the 80s and the 90s in CML. And Satanico would never told him no, but said, not yet, not yet, not yet. And the day he won the heavyweight championship, Satanico said, yes, you can bring back my old group. In fact, here's a couple more members, and gave him Euphoria and Mephisto. And the trio has come along successful since then. Hechicero lost the heavyweight title, but the team won the trios titles, the world trios titles, and they're still trios champions at this point. Hechicero is still having really good matches. Among the diehards of the diehards, of the people who obsess about the matches and about what style CML should be, Hechicero is still their favorite guy. Anytime they throw him in a fan poll for some match or award, Hechicero is going to win every time, because the people who care most deeply to actually vote in fan polls always vote for Hechicero. I don't think New Japan's ever seen him that way, or New Japan fans have not really embraced him that way. So it's another tour where it's another Fantastica Mania appearance where he's just kind of around and he's there to make people look good at the last couple of days. But for CML fans, he's the guy that's never pushed enough, who can never be pushed enough. Atlantis Jr. does not have that problem of never being pushed enough. Atlantis Jr., he won a mask in the biggest show of the CML's year last year. He just won the NWA. Well, it's not the NWA. We're not getting into that. He won the World Historic Light Heavyweight Championship from Stuka. He's just really messed with Stuka's life for the last year or so. He gets pushed so hard that there are those same diehards who are Hechicero fans spread rumors that, he must secretly be related to the people in charge. And I think he just did an interview where he said if they can prove that he's actually related to the people who own CML, he will unmask. So I don't think he's worried about unmasking anytime soon. He's the guy who, I think what happened here is that they wanted to get Atlantis Jr. a really big win to establish him, but they knew he had to be a Rudo to do it because the CML fans do not believe it in rooting for young wrestlers at the top until they've proven something to him. So they had him as a Rudo prove something by like going to a tough physical mass match, and that kind of endeared them to some fans. There were only people who do not like guys who are on top, and Lance Jr. is probably going to deal with that for the rest of his career because he's going to be on top. But he's also clearly like he's going to take over. He's already taken over his father's spot near the top of the card, and he's going to be the guy who's going to have 2 or 3 more anniversary main events if everything goes as it plans. If no U.S. promotion doesn't swoop him up, he's going to be there at the top for as long as he wants to be. Templero, though, it has more of is not as certain to be in the top. He's moved his way up. He was a guy who started on the opening matches, but he was so good as a Rudo that he got moved. He worked his way from the first matches into some significant positions, including this feud with Soberano Jr., which was like the best ongoing feud of 2022 in CML. They had great match after great match, except for one where like an injury stopped it a minute in. But everything else, they had the most exciting matches possible. They are 2 guys who do a lot of stuff in the ring. 2 guys who are like 9 and 10 on the athletics, and they're not really doing much with the storytelling, I guess I would say. They are just doing crazy stuff, and they are trying to top each other, and they're trying to push each other to do more stuff. They had a rivalry, but not really a feud. It was never felt like it was personal between the 2 of them, but they just kind of had to figure out which one was better. Now that Dragon Rojo has got himself involved, it's sort of been more like everyone's annoyed at each other because they're in each other's way of getting the match that they want. So it's become a little bit more mass-rippy, more hate involved, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where that match goes, if it's a 3-way or if it's something else. But we're still a little way off of that. On this tour, I don't know if he's kind of like another guy to fill out trios matches and to look good. I'm not sure how much we'll get to see of him individually, but he's a guy who can stand out with a few different moves, especially his space flying tiger drop into the ring. Barbaro Cavernaro is a guy who always stands out to New Japan fans. He's like on these tours almost every time. I can't think of the last time he wasn't on one of these tours. His gimmick, his personality connects to the Japanese fans, it seems like, and he really likes going to Japan. Unfortunately, he has not seemed like he's enjoyed going to Mexico City as much. He kind of was one of the bad luck guys for the timing of the pandemic, because he was supposed to have a major here versus here match like just a few weeks after the shutdown happened, and instead it happened months later when there was in an empty arena, when people were had very little enthusiasm for the feud, and he seems like himself has had very little enthusiasm for being on CML during the pandemic and even after it. There are guys who came in to CML around and after where he did, where they feel like they've evolved and they've grown and they've changed a bit. And I think Kevin Rowe got over so early and so quickly with his personality and his gimmick that like he had something that worked. There was really didn't make much sense to make any changes, but now he's also been like the same character doing the same stuff for a very long time, and there's probably needs to be some sort of add change. And also I'm sure like some of the stuff he's done over the last 10 years or so has worn him down a little bit. He seemed better in the last few weeks. I'm not sure if like just coming back, if seeing that Fantastica Mania was on the radar was motivate him a little bit more, but was also like not a complete surprise that he has no singles matches on this tour, because he's just not a guy who has been, especially if you're booking this card back in September, is not a guy you wanted to throw in the singles match at that time. He's not bad, but he's just like he's not as exciting as he was before, and he did not seem as invested. Hopefully, like this tour gets a little bit more out of it. Okamura, also not what he was before. Okamura's never been great, but like the last year or so, CML has like done less with Okamura than any time I can remember. He's like around in early tag matches. He wins some, he loses some. He barely does any singles matches. Clearly, like it's great he was able to come back from his neck injury, but even if he didn't have his neck injury, he's like physical prime is pretty far past, and he's just kind of he's getting by, and you can get by in CML for a long time, but I think it seems like everyone's kind of at the point where like they only expect so much from him, and they're not going to overexpose him by putting him in bigger matches. So, like, he's going to be on this tour for as long as probably even longer than he's going to be wrestling CML because they need him on this tour for as a translator. But they, I wonder how many more times they're going to put him in singles matches. I mean, there's a big novelty to the Japanese guys from Mexico comes back to have a match on the Mexican tour every year, but like that might also be his only singles match he has all year. We have matches of notes. Great pluralization there. We have 6 days of touring. Maybe I should have looked through this beforehand, and then I wouldn't have had a 3-minute stall out there. Who knows? 6 days of fantastic Mania tours. These are every time they go, they're the same deal where like they do some stuff. They do a little stuff in the first couple days. They have a tag team tournament, and then like most everything happens the last 2 days. And like if you're pressed for time or if you just don't care, you can easily just show up the last couple days and watch the last 2 shows, and you get the best stuff. It's build up trios, and some of the build up trios can be kind of fun. Like this Wednesday kickoff show includes Ray Cometa teaming with El Desperado and Volador Jr. versus Hechicero, Show, and Templero. And a long, long time ago, when Desperado was a different person, Desperado and Ray Cometa had a big feud. And they have not been in the ring, I don't think, since he's been Desperado. So it's kind of interesting to see them there, kind of see if they acknowledge that history at all, or if they just have a really good match. The Thursday show is a lot of the same stuff as the Wednesday show. The main event changes a little bit. Tanahashi is working the Wednesday show in the main event, and they switch it around a little bit for Thursday, where it's Volador and Mystico versus Atlantis Jr. and Templero. Volador and Mystico team off and on in CML. They do not seem to actually like each other, but not even like in. It's not just a storyline issue there. They seem like they have personalities that do not mesh, but they are the big stars, so they need to team each other every so often. Atlantis Jr. and Templero should be good opponents for making them look good. This probably seems like a chance for Atlantis Jr. to get a win over Mystico before their singles match later on. Friday, and Sunday are the tag team tournament that they run every time we do this. The variation this time is instead of doing families, we're doing factions, because again, CML is more into factions. So you have Dulce Atrapas Sueños facing LIJ, and you have Los Depredadores versus the Guerreros Legioneros. In this case, if you just booked on Team Unity, you probably have Dulce Atrapas Sueños and LIJ be the two best teams, because they are the teams they're the ones who actually team with each other much in 2023. But I would expect that it's going to be the Guerreros versus the LIJ team, and the LIJ team going over the top. Atlantis Jr. and Ultimo Guerrero should not get along at all, but they'll just like go through it, because I cannot see Madria Blanca getting pinfall wins in this match. He's just so obviously a guy in this tournament to get pinned, and they can pin either Cometa and Dulce and it'll be fine. And it's just like New Japan seems sincere about trying to do something with Titan and having him a regular member of LIJ. So the steward's got to be giving Titan some big wins to make sure that like he's just not. New Japan just didn't add him as a bit. They add him because they expect him to be a full-time guy, and what better way to make him a full-time guy than to give him a win over guys that he knows well. Sunday show also has Mystico, Soberano, and Desperado versus Hechicero, Templero, and Dauki. Dauki, as an indie luchador, does not get to face guys like Mystico and Soberano back when he was when he was working Salon Citali and Arena San Juan and all sorts of, and Arena Nakapan and all sorts of arenas. So this is like Daoki getting to fight the people who would not have been in the same building with him years ago. So that's kind of, it's a cool kind of change of thing. It's also the only time we get to see Soberano and Templaro in the same ring, and I think they're just going to probably do nutty stuff just because that's the only thing they do when they're into each other. And there's really, like, there's no match they have to get over that they're setting up. I guess Soberano Hechicero is coming up later, but really I expect that Templaro is just going to push his partner out of the way so he can do some sort of weird power bomb on Soberano at some point. The big matches start on the 27th. There are 3 singles matches on the show. There's Templaro and Volador, which I didn't put up. It's a good match, and everyone will walk away saying, "Oh yeah, it was a good match," but then it does not have the special. It's like 2 guys who regularly would face other people, but they're busy, so they'll face each other instead. Sonic Ultimo Guerrero is kind of interesting because Captain Suicida versus Ultimo Guerrero is kind of interesting because Ultimo Guerrero they are 3 spots away from each other in the card. These are guys who never mix, who would not expect to mix anytime soon, and they are having a singles match because that's how Fantastica Mania work out. Ultimo Guerrero is pretty much on rails in the singles matches where you know where it's going from spot to spot. You can picture the last 5 minutes of any Ultimo Guerrero match in your head, but it'll be interesting to see how much Suicida gets on him and how much he can push him off that pattern, because it's really one of the Suicida's biggest matches he's ever had, and it's just randomly coming on the Korakuen Hall show. Titan Soberano had a fantastic match 3 years ago in an empty arena situation, and they have matched up really well beforehand. Soberano, like Titan, this is Titan's tour, and this Titan's going to look spectacular and almost certainly win. But Soberano can match him move for move, and it's going to be fascinating to see how far they can push this. There was a Mascara Dorada. We've had like Mascara Dorada Volador matches and Volador Soberano matches where they've just gone all out. And it's just like any spectacular move they can think of, and this is probably going to be a successor to one of those. The last day of the tour is February 28th. It's interesting that Soberano is like the only guy getting 2 singles matches. He's going to face Hechicero at the end, and I think that's a showcase for Soberano and might suggest that they have bigger plans for Soberano later on. They really could have just like put Cabanero in there and gave him a singles match, even though that would have been Uro. But I think that's a pretty good indication that this is not the last time you'll see Soberano Jr. in New Japan this year. And the show enter is Mystico versus Atlantis Jr. They always have the biggest technical star versus the heel of the tour again on the final match of the show to send everyone home happy. Mystico, like Ultimo Guerrero, has a formula. He's more liable to switch it up, but what he will do, he'll probably do a lot more because it's the end of a tour and it's the last time in Japan. And Atlantis Jr. did play good at Rudo in his time, and these always end up with the Technico going over at the end, but if anyone was ever going to pull up an upset, it would be Atlantis Jr. Because some point in the near future, maybe even like next year, Atlantis Jr. is going to be the Technico who's gained the big win at the end of the tour. So at some point, he's going to surpass Mystico, and that means it's possible that that happens even on this match. It's a little bit more drama than usual. It'll probably end up with a Mystico straight in the center of the ring, but 15% chance something else happens. That's all I could think of saying. I hope something of this was interesting. If you want to read more about Fantastica Mania, I have a post up on Voices of Wrestling. If you want to see some more matches with some of these people, you can check the description. I drew a whole bunch of recent really good matches with these guys. And if you want to hear my scratchy voice talk about Lucha Libre more often, then subscribe to your channel and maybe I'll throw another video up at some point. Thanks for watching.